Nobody knew who the hell he was.
Or have lived in a Muslim majority country. I know because I am one of them.
How's that hokey-cokey stuff working out for you?
He's now our president. He's our president.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
Taking back America, one listener at a time. This is the Bella D'Angelo Show.
Welcome to the Bella D'Angelo Show. From roughneck to Minnesota. I mean, no offense to Minnesota, Minneapolis, greater, but Minnesota, here we are. As Jay Dugan was saying, he thinks that the last governor to leave the lockdown will win the nomination for 2024, and it's probably our flannel-wearing lunatic Timmy the Tyrant. But we are here, you know, I'm here to do my job, my part. I want to help irradiate stupidity, hopefully teach a little critical thinking. I'd like to encourage a lot of common sense because somehow we've lost the common sense during this COVID thing. And using, you know, God-given common sense and humor. And we'll get to political at the right side eventually. But first, we're here to entertain, get you listening, learning, thinking, and then we'll slide in the political discourse of the evening. And Walter Hudson is joining me, show number 2. Walter, it is such an honor. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, glad to be here and happy to be a part of the program.
Well, we are excited. So last show, Walter joined us for the first time. He is a long-time conservative talk radio rock star, I would call you. We had State Rep Matt Bliss. He joined us as we talked about it. The bill was HF 1336, bill to strip Timmy, but once again, a ballless attempt. So we're going to discuss that a little bit. Right? Wasn't it a ballless? Like it was a neutered attempt, right? I mean, come on.
Well, my read on it was that it doesn't really do anything. What it does is it sets, you know, with all due respect to our guest, Matt Bliss, all it did was it set up a timeline that if the governor doesn't object, then we'll have reopening to various degrees until we're totally reopened again. But at any point, the governor could just decide, well, I don't want to do that. You know, like it didn't do anything to take away his capacity to unilaterally control every social interaction in the state, which is the real problem.
Yeah. So Jay's going to join us again tonight. We're going to talk about how we're going to get our balls back because Texas just reopened. And I got to say, we got a lot of exciting things happening, going on, including we got to talk about old Pinhead. And I guess he just got lost in space there. And the leader of the free world just stands there and says, where am I? But then we also talked about last show, the Dems, are they beginning to fracture within Minnesota? And then I started into the beginning of my discussion about Obama-Biden 2008 versus it really is, well, Biden-Obama 2020 and the inability to really be able to expose before I want to back up. In 2008, there was an inability to really be able to expose the dangerous, fundamentally change destroyer of America, Obama, but now it's full out in our face. The Biden administration and the destruction, they've done more destruction in their just over 30 days than any administration, but I do believe that that is also helping our cause. But so I got to add this. So over the weekend, Walter, I actually thought I had a Dem going to join the show because a friend of mine had posted. It was just one of those memes where it's like bare-chested chicks with short skirts, and the caption was, on a lighter note. And no, I wasn't one of the chicks with the bare chest and the short skirt, Walter. You don't Don't worry. I didn't go. I mean, the porn days are yet to be brought back to this show. Maybe one day. I got to bring Walter slowly into the fold. I can't just freak him out. He'll drop the mic and just leave. But one of the comments was, thank God, some humor, and thank God for Biden. So I jumped in and I asked, so what are you so excited about Biden's first month in office? I mean, here I'm thinking I'm finally going to hear some really meaty material. Get her to come on the show, engage with us. As I tell everybody, we're here to be respectful. We want to have good dialogue. We'd love to hear what you're excited about with the Biden administration. And so I said to her, I said, come on my show. And all she did was she kept making these kind of like snide remarks, right? That's what they do. And so then I asked her for her phone number so I could call her and so I could, let her hear me and let her kind of understand that I like this kind of healthy engagement. And then, of course, she said, she's not going to fall for it and that she has my number. Like, yeah. I don't know. You can't ever get them to the table.
Well, and look, as somebody who, when I had my radio show, I regularly did have lefties on the program. It was not my most popular segment, and I knew that. Callers would regularly, and listeners through other means would regularly let me know that they didn't like hearing from the other side. The reason I did it is because I thought it was important to put a human face on these horrific ideas and get people to realize that it's not just a cartoon, that there are actually people who believe this stuff, and to hear it from the horse's mouth of exactly what that is. But I'll tell you, those conversations were extraordinarily difficult. They were extraordinarily difficult to have because the two things you have to have in order to have a civil discourse is benevolence and common ground. And, we could sometimes fake benevolence, but we can't fake common ground on a lot of these issues. I mean, there's just a fundamental disagreement as to what the world even is and how it works. That's the point that we're at now.
Oh, trust me, I know it very well. You and I both know it in our discussions about our liberal relatives. But so then I go to find her. And I sent her a friend request. And so then I go and try and find her. And, of course, she deletes all of her comments. And then, I don't know, I thought maybe she's a distant relative. I can never get Jen, the witless White House correspondent's name right. But I got to say, she's one of the most bizarre individuals. She is either a he-she failing if she, if she's trying to be a she, she's failing. And I swear to Jesus, if she is a she has never been laid in her entire life. Not to mention, who the hell would be up for the task? I want to, and then I thought, have you seen the picture of the very terrified child that Anderson Cooper adopted? Did you ever see that on the front of People magazine?
No. Describe it.
Sorry, I just snorted. Okay, picture if Biden had a love child. It would probably look like the Anderson Cooper adopted child that witless could have been the mother by immaculate conception with ties to ET genealogy. Okay, put all that together. All
right, I'm trying to Google this while you talk about it because that's quite the description. Are you talking about this baby?
Anderson Cooper adopted this baby, and the poor thing looks absolutely freaked out of its mind, just like Witless does up there as the White House correspondent. And I don't know.
It's hilarious to me that's where your mind went. You went straight from Jen, what's her name, to Anderson Cooper's baby.
Hey, I never said there was a method. There's just madness over here. But so coming up, one thing that I didn't get to do last week was we lost the great one, and Rush Limbaugh. Yeah. And and I'm so thankful that they're keeping the EIB network alive. It's kind of what I had said. I think that they should do is keep the EIB network alive, and then hopefully guest hosts will balance out the week, and then they've been playing excerpts. So I want to give my thanks to Rush and how I found him. Then I want to talk about ending COVID addiction. What do I mean by that? I will explain. And the bullying of the vaccine. Okay? Really dangerous things going on right now. Because at the end of the day, Walter, and everybody listening, a year ago right now, we didn't know. We hadn't heard about COVID. And if I would have told you a year ago, we'd be running around with paper over our mouths, strings over our ears, family members disengaging with other family members because they haven't been vaccinated over something that basically boils down to the flu. And people still locked up in their huts willingly, Walter. I have them. They're willingly locked up in open states, quarantined to the nth degree, breathing sanitizer. You know that, right? I know.
Right.
Then Jay Dugan's going to join us. Go ahead. What?
Well, I was just going to say it's pretty nuts, the degree of, and when you do go to a slightly freer state and you see the extent to which people are lined up begging to be subjugated and imprisoned, it's quite depressing to realize that the American spirit is that dead in much of the populace.
It's frightening. I had a job interview earlier today, and she was going through all of the COVID procedures. And don't worry, I won't have to touch hard surfaces, and I'm going to have to sanitize. And it just said, I wanted to say stop, thanks, but no thanks. You have to go through all that madness. But so Jay Dugan's going to join us, and then if you're listening tonight and you want to join in, welcome anybody who would like to call in, rant about anything, throw it at us. We can handle it. The call-in number is 516-666-9192. Again, 516-666-9192. So I got to give an update on Yoga Hot Pants, a.k.a. my mama. Because it's fitting because I'm going to tell a little bit about my past and my mom. My mom is not the mom I ever managed I would be so blessed to have today. We have more fun that's sometimes criminal. I gave her the nickname, you're going to laugh at this, Yoga Hot Pants, because someone told me one day that they liked hot yoga, and I didn't know if that meant like angry sex. And I thought I'd just leave it alone. Walter just choked or spit his coffee out his nose. Which one?
I'll leave it to your imagination.
So I went with it. And here's the thing. So I give her this nickname, Yoga Hot Pants. And in her old apartment complex, when they had all their activities, I would love running into, she loved bingo. And she's going to start bingo, I think, tomorrow night. She's in a new Alcatraz. But I used to love running into these bingo classes. And, you know, she'd have her back to me. And I would yell out, "Where's Yoga Hot Pants?" And her friends would just giggle, and then she would shrink down, even though she can't go a whole lot further down because she's only 5 feet tall. But Walter and anybody listening, do not tell her that she's 5 feet tall because she will correct you and she will say 5 foot and 1 inch. And but here's the thing. I love having a lot of fun, and I used to sign in. You know, they had a login book, just like they do at the new place, but nobody knows me yet, so I don't, just like Walter, I don't want to terrify him yet. But I had to state the reason for my visit to Yoga Hot Pants. And I wrote in the reason that, I wrote Yoga Hot Pants, a.k.a. my mama, that she was free to a good home, and that I was suggesting putting her on a leash with food and water, and that she might bite or screech, just insert earplugs. I'll leave that up to whichever individual you're putting the earplugs into. And I was giggling as I left because, you know, there's the serious ones and then the ones that actually knew us. And so when I got back, like the next day, the girl that really knew me, Karina at the front desk, she was laughing so hard. She was snorting from some of these people that literally thought I was trying to, like, give my mom away to a free home, putting her on a leash. Well, nice. I'm beginning to think maybe there's a little more to this show that I should have asked before I signed on. Here's the thing. So, Rush Limbaugh, how did I find him? Well, so I was trying to put the dates and my age and everything. But so I was going to the U of M, okay, commuting every single day, hatefully participating. I'm one of those people that I could have skipped education, probably ninth grade on, and just gone right into the workforce. And I kind of did in a roundabout way because my parents divorced when I was 15, right? And forced me to basically be head of the house because both my parents left. My dad remarried, and then my mom took a on-the-road sales job. So grew up fast, had too much to pay attention to. I just didn't pay attention to school. All I wanted to do was get out and get to work. That was my outlook. So fast forward, I got my first sales job right out of high school selling tanning products on a pool deck. And then my dad had said, I guess it's a little background, my dad had said, you'll be nothing if you don't get your butt in college. That's how it got me into college. So, but at the time, my mom was basically homeless. She was living on a couch. And so I had to buy a house. And the thing was it was contract for deed. And I was trying to remember how I figured out at 20-something to buy a house contract for deed when I was basically living on waitressing wages. And I remember I'd interviewed. I originally wanted to be a realtor, but they told me that I could only do real estate. And, at the time, I knew that I had to have a job. But it solved one of my housing situations because I hated the apartment situation. So I moved my mom in and my sister. We were the minorities on the west side of St. Paul at the time, and we were given grants to fix up this house, landscaping. So at 20, I had my first house and remodel project. Meanwhile, I'm also attending the University of Minnesota. And it was literally an exercise in retaliation. When someone says you won't amount to anything, fine, I'll go to the stupid college until I can't take it anymore. But, because my mom made less than poverty level, I qualified for small grant money to go to school, but I also need to cover, mortgage, living expenses, all of those things. So I got 2 jobs. And one of them, I was waitressing at Ristorante Lucci 6 nights a week. And during the day, I had a window of time before I went to the waitressing job that I found a delivering auto parts job. Kind of speaks to the workaholic that I was even at a very early age. And so I was working for Smith Auto, delivering auto parts, and I had this crappy company trunk, had a hole in the floorboard, and only AM radio. And I'll never forget turning on the radio, and it was Rush's voice. First time I'd ever heard him. And Rush was joking about how thrilled he was that Slick Willie had won re-election. And all I could think about was, wow, someone that doesn't sound like these milquetoast minds around me. I mean, he made that big of an impact with his voice and the way he sounded. And this was the ears of somebody that was not politically involved back then. And he made me laugh. He made me think. And that easy formula I try to subscribe to today in my show. Did Rush get me into politics then? No, but I found my way back to radio in 2009, when I made my call into Sean Hannity. And we are, and of course I called in then because Fox I didn't feel was giving us any truth. And of course, today we're even further from any form of truth today. Now we got Obama 2.0, and I'm not going to go wide open to that, but I just want to say here, let me say, Rush, you are not replaceable. The friend I never met in person, nor got to talk to live, but you will be forever in our hearts. And thank you for all that you did, because you broke the ground for all of us. And I'm actually going to make it on time to my first break. I want to say thanks. We've got Strike Fitness located in Rogers, Minnesota. They are a unique boxing fitness training center that offers the best and most fun total body fat burning and stress relieving group fitness boxing workouts on the planet. You'll learn a new skill, the sweet science of boxing. Right now, you can try out the classes for 2 full weeks, only $30. Get your trial offer at strike-fitness.com. And if you mention me, you will get free hand wraps. And I am determined to make it up there. And Walter, I got to say, everything that I hear about the classes, they're a lot of fun. Mark Royce, the owner, he's a super guy, super patriot. Also, want to give a shout out to Yoga by Blisstopia in Blaine, Minnesota. Really fun, maskless yoga studio. It's a special boutique, authentic yoga studio that offers both hot yoga using infrared heat and non-heated traditional yoga classes. Experienced teachers that have true passion for yoga and all the benefits it offers. Yoga classes, healing touch sessions, workshops, and more are all offered here 7 days a week. Right now, you can get a 30-day class pass for only $60. Mention me, and you'll get a 15-minute free health assessment. Also, we've got Ken's Mad K Studio. If you are listening to this podcast, you are a liberty-loving, free market patriot. Imagine being an equally patriotic artist with all the fake news and censorship happening. Ken Madden of Mad K Studio has had difficulties getting the word out. Ken was a former co-host here on the show, and he felt that this was the right place to advertise. Thank you, Ken. Ken will create a one-of-a-kind work of fine art, including a portrait of your pet, horse, motorcycle, car, and even your house. Just email Ken a picture for a free estimate. Ken's email is ken@maddkstudio.com. ken@maddkstudio.com. Go to madkstudio.com and spend some time looking through all Ken's art and sculpture. There are even stickers for the kids. Mention the Bella D'Angelo Show for a free sticker and 10% discount on all commissioned work. Stay on task. Okay, I managed to make it through that. Possibly even sound like I've maybe done that once before.
Right.
Right.
You gotta kind of just you gotta sort of just walk out of it as if you nailed it. Like, no, you don't look back and watch the explosion. You just walk away looking cool with your sunglasses on. That's how you do that.
I'll try that next time. I will try. Note to self: put sunglasses on. Okay. All right. So another hilarious thing from Facebook. So Jay Dugan made this posting in the Rocks and Cows Facebook page. And this is where we're going to talk about the COVID addiction. And it never ceases to amaze me. This woman starts out whining about the mask mandate. And I just posted, I don't wear one. She responded, I am denied service. And she listed Cub Foods, Target, Home Depot, everywhere where I go without a mask, okay? She then adds, the employees threatened me. I said, tell the manager. Then she said, the security people took her groceries and escorted her out. I thought to myself, now, Walter, wouldn't you have just yanked the groceries back from the security person? Am I missing something? I would have.
Where is she at? Like, what part of the cities is she in? Do we know? Because I wonder if that might be the difference. Because if I tried to go into my, conservative Wright County, Northwestern Metro grocery store without a mask, are they going to call security on me? Probably not. But if I went downtown Minneapolis and walked in without a mask, they'd probably tackle me before I even got past the service desk.
Well, I'd tackle them back. I'd rip my groceries back and tell them to call the band. That's what I would do. So then I said, hey, call me, because I was on the road. I really wanted to help her. I said, and she said, well, I'm a little hesitant to call. And I thought, for the love of God, I'm offering some free help here. But my question is, do we have no idea how to fight? I mean, when did we become afraid of employees and security people security people, they can't really even make it into the real job market to start. He's probably, you've seen these kids that drive around with the cop wannabe cars, right? There's a cult of them, and I think those are the ones that wear the fake little security badges. You know, because it's little man syndrome.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of there needs to be people need to feel like it's safe to fight. That's what the current COVID paradigm has imposed upon people, is this kind of psychological oppression where you don't feel as though you've got a leg to stand on. Because what they've done is they've turned, and you and I kind of talked about this offline, that they've created a scenario where if you go into the store without a mask, it's not the state that you're defying. It's not the governor that you're defying. You're disobeying the rules of the proprietor. And you're putting their business at risk because they could end up getting fined for not enforcing it. And so it becomes this thing where they're making it personal between you and the proprietor of the store, as opposed to making it the real battle, which is between we the people and the state.
I've come up with my solution. It just dawned on me. See, a lot of people don't maybe know this about me. I grew up a tomboy. Yeah, I did. And for whatever reason, by the time I hit 7th grade, there was like this weird reputation that I carried over my head. This is honest to God truth. 7th grade, I was already labeled like a slut, even though I didn't have a boyfriend until I was like in 10th or 11th grade. And literally, Walter, you can picture this. You know, the pretty mean girls would go search out, you know, the corner smoking kind of grunge girls and get them to go after me and pick fights. And I literally would, I can say I was a street fighter because I was in the back of the high school and surprisingly kicked their lily little asses. But maybe that's what I do. I open my own business, my own studio, and start teaching people how to like literally I don't mean fight, tackle these people, but I just don't understand when people are like, but they're taking my food and they're escorting me out. When did we lose? I mean, here's the thing, everybody, right? We spent the majority of the summer without the mask. It's just all of a sudden then when the mask mandate came out, because they just decided that we were becoming too emboldened and possibly figuring this thing out, so they throw the mask mandate, but it's got to end. It's got to end.
Well,
but you know what?
It's going to end in a scenario like if an establishment's willing to do that, and this is what's truly insidious about this whole thing is it's truly pitting neighbor against neighbor. We're creating a scenario where you've got businesses manhandling their own customers over the use of a face diaper. If that's the type of establishment that's in your community, then the way you do it is you borrow a tactic from the left, right? So one of the favorite tactics of the left is to overwhelm law enforcement, overwhelm the systems of control by just having more people than the system is capable of handling. So you take 100 people and you block a freeway. You know, you take 500 people and you march down the street because there aren't enough cops in town to arrest all of them. They might arrest a few, but they're not going to get them all. The same tactic needs to be employed to overcome these mask policies. If you're dealing with a grocery store that's manhandling its own customers, then you need to get together a group of neighbors who are going to all go in there at once and do their shopping at the same time, all maskless, and basically look them in the eye and say, you know, go ahead, try arrest us all. To try to take all of our carts.
Yeah. I mean, I've explained this to, you know, I was at lunch with my girlfriend and, you know, she asked me to put the mask on so we could walk through the line at this cafe. And she said, just let the locals feel comfortable. And then I was talking about this segment. And I said to her, I said, you are kind of part of the problem. I mean, you're still doing this to make other people feel comfortable. And so we were discussing it. And as she's looking outside and she's watching, you know, people walking out in, you know, out on the streets in fresh air, young people still wearing their masks, and it leads to, that's what she said. She said, well, you never get harassed. And here's the thing. If you walk around with that look on your face, like, go ahead and try me. Yeah. Instead of like sheepishly, like, should I be doing this or not? No, you just walk around with I will take no prisoners and pound sand and a few more expletives, and trust me, they won't walk up to you. But because here's the thing, and Walter, you know this, I got J and Q, I'm going to bring you on here in a couple minutes. I just got to get through this next segment. Government, and specifically the state of Minnesota and Timmy, get away with what they're going to continue to try and do, which is keep these Emergency Powers Act, keep this control. The only way that we're going to get rid of COVID and the masking is if we take our power back and we put the mask down. And I want to explain this, ending the COVID addiction. If you didn't hear this story, so I was at Cub Foods about a week ago, and I turned the corner to go down this aisle, and of course I'm maskless, and she looks at me and she said, "Oh my gosh, doesn't anybody say anything to you about the mask?" And I looked at her and I said, "Not if you growl." And then she said, "So this is pointless." And I said, "Yep." And she said, "We don't have to do this." I said, "Nope." And literally, it's like taking handcuffs off somebody, you guys. Walter, she pulled the mask away and she started to tear up. And she said, "I'm sorry, but I don't have anybody to talk to." And I sat right down. There was a pallet full of salt, bags of salt. And I just sat down and I said, "I'm here. I'll listen." And it's as if I was probably the first free white 21 maskless person she'd ever seen on the planet. Like, this was like, and she kept apologizing. And I just said, "It's okay." And she said, "It's pointless. Everybody around me is brainwashed," which meant they're all liberals, because I know I'm the only conservative, critical thinking individual on both sides of my family. And she said, "I can't talk to my kids. I can't talk to any of my relatives. It's pointless. I get nowhere." I said, "It's okay. It's okay. I get it." And she said, "And you wouldn't even believe about the vaccine." She said, "They are absolutely badgering me." So this leads into the bullying, right? My mom got bullied into her first round of the vaccine. And I said to her, I said, "Well, why don't you use this one on them?" I said, "They're all liberal, right?" I said, "Use my body, my choice." And she started to snicker, and I said, "There you go. You're going to be fine. It's going to be okay." And I said, "But God bless America, because you know that prior to COVID, Walter, you know this, everybody listening, nobody gave a flying rat's ass monkey if you got that flu shot, nor did they ever ask you, did they?"
Correct. It was nobody's business, even though it's effectively very similar in terms of its spread.
So there's a point in where you literally look at this like an addiction. You must stop. Can you give yourself a day? How about a week? How about 30 days? Where if COVID is mentioned, you just change the subject. I mean, after meeting this woman in Cub the other day, I really think all of us collectively joined to end the COVID dialogue in our personal lives. Now, we can't escape it when we're going into the workplace where you've got all of the processes and procedures and you've got all of that. But it started to strike me the other day when I was having lunch at Panera Bread, and I had my iPad and my Trump stickers all over it. And this woman, again, gave me the thumbs up about Trump. And then I walked up to her and I asked if she thought he was going to run in 2024, which if we get a chance, we'll talk a little bit about CPAC coming up. It was great to hear him talk. It was great to hear him coming out as the leader of the GOP. He hinted at a run in 2024. But then immediately we went from talking about Trump to she's surprised that I'm maskless, surprised no one's saying anything, and then all of a sudden, it's kind of like, think about it, I mean, it's like, all of a sudden you think you're free of the meth and the crack pipe, and then all of a sudden your buddy goes, "Oh my God, where's the best meth? Where do we get it?" And then all of a sudden you're trapped right back into it. And just like a bad addiction, count how many conversations in a day lead down that path. And the biggest problem is he is not going to shut it off. The signage isn't going to come off anytime soon. This was a very well orchestrated, mass marketed plan. And if we're going to get out and return our lives to normal, we have to be the ones that recognize the addiction, identify it, and make a plan, and then purposely execute it so that we can get back to normal. Because think about this, Walter. A year ago, none of this existed. We normally went about our days, our lives. We weren't living in fear. We didn't have lockdowns. And trust me, this virus had been around a lot longer before they even mentioned it and started mass fearing us.
Yeah, I mean, it is astounding to consider what a relatively short time ago the world was a completely different place. I mean, if you went back in time and you pulled somebody forward a year and a half, they would not recognize the world that they were brought into. I mean, it's psychologically and culturally just, like I say, oppressed. That's the word that keeps coming back to me. This is oppression of the type that is constant. Oppression is pervasive, it's persistent, it's unrelenting, you can't escape it, and that's what we're dealing with this COVID situation. I'm interested in what Jay's got to share with us.
Yeah, I'm going to bring Jay on here in just 1 second. I'm going to wrap this up. Because here my personal situation, I'll probably never see my family again because I will never be Roundup ready. And, the vaccine, remember in Chevy Chase's Christmas, the old man and the blessing at the dinner table when he's saying to the grandma, the blessing. I feel like the vaccine will somehow now be just as common because this, too, is seen as the blessing. And yet the curse to those who use Trump to divide will now use non-vaccinated as the new divider of friends and family. And this Andrea, my heart went out to her. I gave her my phone number. I hugged her. I told her she'd call me anytime that she wanted to laugh or just needed a friend. And I encourage everybody, when you find an Andrea in your life, reach out to them. Give them a hug, encourage them to drop the mask and live fearless. And I've got to reach out. I got to read real quick, Jay. I've got 2 ads here. Kim Fox, owner of Fox Nutrition and Diabetes Services, is a registered licensed dietitian nutritionist. Kim specializes in weight reduction, blood glucose improvement, meal planning, and immune system boosting using a functional nutrition approach. Her philosophy is prevention beats intervention. But when individuals become ill, Kim's approach to wellness is different than what you'll typically find at your clinic. Conventional medicine provides medication as a band-aid approach to provide symptom relief to their patients. Kim specifically designed for each person so the body can begin to heal itself just as it was created to do. Working with Kim can help you set goals, better understand your health, and ultimately lead to the healthier, happier, more energetic life you've dreamed of. Jay, you got a lot of background noise. I'm going to mute you for a second. Working with Kim can help you set goals, better understand your health, ultimately lead to your healthier, happier, more energetic life you've dreamed of. Based in Andover, contact Kim at foxdiabetes.com to schedule your free 25-minute health makeover strategy session. And if you mention this ad from the Bella D'Angelo Show, you'll receive 25% off your first package of choice. Next, Willie Madlin. He's a great guy. His horse stable is out in Stillwater. And if you want to enjoy a fearless guided horseback ride right here in the metro area, call my friend Willie at Madline Horsemanship. In business for over 40 years, he'll take you or your group on a 1 or 2 hour ride through beautiful forests and countryside. Call or text 51468-6050. You can also find him on the internet. That's Madline, Madline, Horsemanship, 651-468-6050. And I don't know, Willie, you don't need to give me a free horseback ride. Maybe just let me come out and groom the ponies. I miss being around the ponies. Jay Dugan, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, man, I called in for, Dictator Survivor, episode 11. As we were talking today. All the news. Governor Cuomo is the newest biggest loser in Dictator Survivor. He was voted off the island today. It appears even the New York Democrats can't stand the bigoted tyrant, womanizing old people killer, and it looks like he's going to lose his dictator powers. As you and I have discussed, for those who haven't been paying attention, the winner of Dictator Survivor is the last governor standing, still oppressing his people, and he automatically receives the Democrat endorsement for the 2024 election to replace Sleepy Joe Biden. And Governor Cuomo is the big loser today. Governor Greg Abbott, in order to show people that he is a Republican, gracefully and voluntarily bowed out by removing all mask and business restrictions today, just so that people did not have any misunderstanding that he might be participating in Dictator Survivor. And the Republicans are trying to forcefully, maybe episode 12 will bring us the joyous news that Gretchen Whitmer Heydrich from Michigan has been stripped of dictator powers, which brings us to Minnesota. Like you said, Governor Walz ain't giving him up unless we pry it from his cold, dead hands. So I think everybody ought to call the 1-800 number, not to vote for Dictator Walz, but to call those traitors in outstate Minnesota voting with the DFL in Minneapolis instead of their resident constituents. So that's been my personal goal recently, is to remind those people back home that, no, your local DFL representative hates your guts, and you can tell every time they're in a picture together with Walz, and they're both smiling.
How do you like that, Walter?
Fantastic. I agree.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Tyrant Tim, I was just hoping that with all this good news, maybe that means tomorrow I will wake up and find out that the Senate Republicans have finally decided to fire Jan Malcolm, and they're gonna put our team in the game. I don't know. With the Brazilian strain that Dr. Fauci and Dr. Osterholm keep panic mongering about, I have visions of Tim Walz telling us sometime around the end of the state fair, after he's grids all over the ground and they meter the amount of people that can come in and you have to wear your mask and there's space lines for the mini donuts, that he's going to tell us that, if this coming flu season isn't too bad, we might be out of this by March 2022. I think he really wants to win Dictator Survivor more than anybody. I think he'll give up last. We will need to pry it from his cold dead fingers. He's relentless. The dude's a smooth politician. He exploits every opening. I got to give him credit for that. Him and I probably don't share any agreement on policy, but he's a smooth politician. I imagine even Walter might agree with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has managed to weaponize the worst characteristics of Minnesota's psyche. And by that I mean, we live in a state where the appeal of collectivism is strong, and you can more or less win any moral argument by appealing to the quote-unquote common good. And Walz has taken that to, he's dialed that up to 11 in terms of justifying all of his tyranny, his unilateral claim of total authority over every human being in the state, on the idea that, well, it's all for grandma, it's all for your neighbor, it's all for the common good, it's all for the community, and aren't you nice? Aren't you Minnesota nice? And, if we hope...
atheist commies have used, what would a good Christian do against us pretty darn good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the way we fight against that is with the answer. What would a good Christian do? They certainly wouldn't yield. They wouldn't sacrifice their own children. They wouldn't sacrifice their own well-being and the well-being of their community and their humanity as such to fear. That's not what a good Christian would do. Christianity is about overcoming death. It's about overcoming fear. It's about putting to death those things which oppress the world and living in joy and with faith and hope. And that's not the headspace that Tim's policies put us in.
Yeah, no, I feel like we've moved straight to animal farmers. You haven't been paying attention just by accident through folks contacting Rocks and Cows. I ended up finding out about current events in Red Wing and all that kooky. On the national scene, even in liberal states, nobody wants to take ownership of the Green New Deal. As on one side, we're going to fight climate change that was caused by the racist Western European colonialists and their capitalism, and then so we're going to correct climate change and tax and penalize capitalism in order to fix climate change at that cost. And then on the other hand, we're going to equity fix everything. So social justice, environmental justice, all the money that comes from those penalizations goes to whatever, the weird cult religion that they call the Green New Deal. And somehow they packaged it all together, and people were making fun of AOC. Oh, what are you going to do? Swim to Hawaii, and they all try and distance themselves from it. But even down in the little town of Red Wing, I mean, they're embracing it wholeheartedly. The city council is on a mission to. They stated, backtrack. They formed a committee to seek out. Not to even seek out, to eliminate institutional and systemic racism within the city of Richfield, or Red Wing. And I'm thinking, it's Mayberry, it's Red Wing is Mayberry. Anyhow, yeah, I mean, the city council's got a committee looking to root systemic racism out of Red Wing. The police chief was like, what, we aren't even going to look for it? We're just, nope, it's here. We got to get rid of it. He's like, this is a little weird. Cool, you're fired. And I'm thinking, man. Little, Mayberry Red Wing, and they've, the full Green New Deal, Bernie AOC kooks times 2 are at work. It used to be we had a 2-year delay of stupid from California, but I kind of think we're like mainlining it here. HQ must be in St. Paul nowadays because it seems like we get it real time.
So Jay, how were they going to get rid of it? I mean, they established a committee, and what was their solution?
They hadn't gotten to the solution phase yet. They had selected some police officers on the police department that they wanted to participate with the 12 citizens who requirement to be on the team was to have no previous experience in or with government. And then they hired a BLM police coordinator that solves systemic racism to lead the team. Some of the information they reviewed and discussions were public, but their deliberations on solutions were private. I thought that was kind of weird. I'm just guessing that's against public meeting policy or laws, but yeah, no, I guess the few of the police officers did not want to participate, so they insinuated that you're racist if you don't want to insinuate, and then the chief wasn't too excited about it. Between that and last fall, when Governor Walz did this holidays when he did the latest shutdown, the city did a one-up. They sent out a notice saying, if you're caught in public standing too close together, we're going to fine your ass. And police chief wasn't too excited about that either, so he just wasn't down with their kook show, so they decided that was the last straw. He didn't want to seek out his own systemic racism, so they fired him. And the whole city is just kind of waking up to, just like Walter said, oh boy, we thought this was an equality investigation, and we were going to go and make sure, double check that we're all being good people and good neighbors. And when they found out that it was opposite, the city was just assumed to be evil, and the committee was to root it out. Well, kind of looks like there's going to be some city council recalls in Red Wing going on in the next month or so.
Yeah, that falls right in line. Yeah, I had read the story about them firing their police chief, and of course they didn't offer any details as to really why or what was behind it, but I immediately knew that it was something like what you just described, because that's the only way that happens.
Refusal to fully participate in city initiatives. Oh, the policy team advisory, for example. For example, or that's why. It's not laser surgery to read through the lines on that one.
Right. And that's how it works, is they come in with their pre-established absurd premises that systemic racism is real, and that to be white is to be racist, and disparities are prima facie evidence of discrimination. So they come in with all these ridiculous, absurd, highly disputed premises, and then they say, we're going to have a discussion about how to solve these problems. And when you're like, wait, first of all, we need to have a discussion about whether or not these are even actual problems, they're like, oh, well, you need to leave. I am just hoping that we can find a conservative attorney. I think this is all getting so ridiculous that I would like to sue the state of Minnesota for racism, for wanting to card people for cigarettes, because and the banning of menthol cigarettes, that's clearly racist, because statistically more people in the minority community buy cool menthols than white people. Right. So there must be a racist motive behind it, and I am going to get rid of ID for tobacco products. I mean, if it's good, I bet you we could even find the legal justification they use to get rid of ID for voting and use it against them. I wish I just had $10,000 laying around. It would be the funnest lawsuit in the world.
How do really,
Yeah, it
guys,
sounds like a lot of fun.
I know that this isn't possible, but, how could you hook up every single mainstream media, hook it up to the same damn power grid, and just shut it down? So Wilson, my very good friend, over the weekend, he went out and he saw his daughter, two of his daughters and their families, right? And they're liberal, he's conservative. And this is the first that he's been around them since this madness. And they never, they don't talk politics. They know each other's views and they respect it, and they can be around each other and be a great, happy family. He could not believe when I picked him up from the airport. He said for the first time he's ever been relieved to get away because he couldn't believe the nonstop talk of systemic and the racism and how they all justified all of the rioting because of the racism and the standing up and fighting for George Floyd. And he said, he understands from listening to my stories, but he never thought that it would come to his family. And as he said, these are highly educated, children that he has. Of course, they do work in the school system. But, Jay, it's like I was asking you, and like you said, we're mainlining sanity now. But how did they become so far rabid? Like overnight, like we went from, you had a few of them that you used to laugh and joke about AOC and the squab and all that, but they've literally taken over, and it's. And I think what you explained was, it's like when Trump first won election and how excited we were, it's like they've been holding back all of this, and this is how they really think, and now they're just emboldened, and it's just right out there front and center, and it's just so maniacal.
I don't know. I don't know what Walter's opinion is, but I think Obama promised it to him. He didn't deliver, made some people upset. Bernie didn't win because not all of the Democrats were uber liberal yet. Even as little as 2 years ago, Nancy was telling the squad people they need to shut up and sit in the back of the bus. But, just like here in Minnesota, they went to all the bluest of the blue parts and they made sure, darn it, if we're going to send a Democrat through the nomination process for a guaranteed win, man, he's going to be Animal Farm Kook Show. And, here we go. Here, Minnesota's got 14 John Thompsons, or a dozen new guys like that join the Minnesota State House or Senate. Heck, they've got an actual avowed communist Marxist was a new senator from Minneapolis. I'm just assuming that they did everything on the national level. Now Nancy's looking over her shoulder and the whip is counting votes, and it's probably about 50-50, full kook show and some of the old people. And they're probably thinking, boy, we don't go along with this, we're going to be out of a job. It's just my guess.
I would say that
Go ahead, Walter.
The culture is led by the clergy, and by clergy I don't necessarily mean the pastor of a particular congregation or denomination. What I mean is those people within the culture who are looked to as the moral authority. So that used to be your pastor. It used to be the church, where you would go on Sunday and hear preaching of fire and brimstone and sin and repentance and, come to the light and come out of darkness and reform yourself. That used to be where we got our source of moral guidance from. Now we get it from professors and Dr. Fauci and the experts and your teacher and your professor. And so those are the people, when you talk about, your kids, or other people's kids becoming so deeply ingrained and bought into the modern narrative, it's because that's what they're hearing from the people who they regard and acknowledge as the moral authorities in their lives.
Yeah, no, and we're about to get 1619 Project as our new social studies standards here in Minnesota, and that's amazing. Tim Walz, just as little as 2 months ago, was down in Dodge County, Minnesota, at Wasioja bragging about the fine history of the state of Minnesota, standing in front of an old stone building where some of the first soldiers in the whole country went to volunteer and sign up to go fight for the Union in the Civil War and defeat slavery. And he drives to town like about an hour later, and he calls the whole state racist. So, and nobody bats an eye and doesn't even make the news. So, I totally believe you with the cultural and civic leaders. They aren't on our team, that's for sure.
No, and most people do not engage in active critical thinking. They follow it's like a bunch of lemmings. They follow whatever the dominant moral narrative is, and everybody wants to be viewed as good and righteous and decent and a good citizen. And so if the messaging they get is that a good citizen wears a mask, a good citizen is concerned about the environment, a good citizen is concerned about systemic racism, then they're going to mimic those talking points, not because they actually believe in them. They don't even understand what they're talking about. They're mimicking it because they
every
want...
kid has to be required to spend a week in the oil fields with Bella and the Roughnecks to straighten this out. I mean, it's getting out of hand.
That's exactly right. They need to be confronted with the real world.
Yeah, hence why when I left Minneapolis, I've said this to a few. I think I've said it to both you guys. If you haven't heard me say it before on the show, I never fit in here in Minneapolis. I could not figure out, how it was that I'd spent all those years. I wish I would have found the oil field a long time ago. It would have saved me a hell of a lot of grief. I do know that when I did show up in the oil field, they could not believe that I actually came from Minneapolis, Minnesota. They couldn't believe how far-right conservative my values were. They were the first ones that validated all of my... Because
threw us
remember,
off, Bella. You didn't have a nose ring.
What's that?
So you threw. I could imagine the first Roughneck saw you and said, "Yeah, you would have never guessed." Threw us off. You didn't have purple hair and there was no nose ring. You were totally in disguise.
Well, I don't know. I was just so happy to be the hell out of the corporate world. I had like a suit burning party, right? I mean, it wasn't bra burning, it was suit burning, and to be able to run around in steel-toe boots, jeans, and a Carhartt, and the F-bomb was every other word. But boy, did we have fun! And it's funny because I was gonna suggest that maybe that's where I go next week for the show and report back from the Bakken, one of the great places to, that's the one thing. Oil gets such a bad rap, but it's one of the best places you can ever go. If you want to meet salt of the earth, real hardworking, true grit, big-hearted people, because I went there to start over, and they gave me an awful lot, and I give back to those that gave me so much, and I give back to you guys. I've said this before. There's a lot of us here. I'm really appreciative to have some really good people part of this show. Walter, Jay, you're a regular. There's a lot of good people that are advertising on the show, and we've got to hold hope and faith. And, we've been in very dark places before in this country. We've been up very big hurdles that we've been facing. But I think both you guys would agree that with all the madness and the insanity, and it's right out in front of us. Now, I don't know. I've always said Minneapolis, Minnesota is a unique state. Hell, we put yank your tits in. We didn't even vote for Reagan, for God's sakes. I haven't figured out Minneapolis, Minnesota. I can say this, though. When the madness is completely exposed, it allows for easier conversation. I got to remember not to get screechy. It opens the door for easier communication with the common sense people that are still kind of walking around and scratching their heads. Because Obama did it behind closed doors. I know specifically for me in 2009, it was absolutely impossible. My neighbors in Orono, Minnesota, there were 4 of them, and they were all conservative Republicans, and they all bought into the hope and change bullshit. They told me that I was radical and extremist, and I didn't know what I was talking about. They, now, when I mentioned to just like my mom, I asked her what she thought about the crossing at the border, and that there was no COVID screening. She looked at me as if I was literally making it up. It's little conversations like that. But on a bigger, grander level, guys, don't you both agree that this is setting the ground for exposing just how radical and dangerous this party is.
I know I'm in
To an
construction.
extent.
Everybody thinks they're nuts. Walter's probably seen. Maybe he could tell us about the changes he's seen.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm a little bit more cynical just because I don't understand how you didn't see it before, right? Like, how have you been paying attention to any degree at all and not seen how crazy these people are, and yet, voter fraud notwithstanding, they managed to have a successful election. And so, what we need is, yes, we do have that opportunity. Anytime you're out of power, it gives you an opportunity to point at the other guy and say, see how ludicrous they are. But we need to be very specific in terms of how we approach that conversation. And it needs to be exactly the way you're talking about, Bella, where the choice is between reality and fantasy, and between your autonomy as an individual, whether or not you own your life or you're going to be owned by someone else. In our case in Minnesota, Governor Walz.
Amen. Guys, we got to wrap this up. We're up at the top of the hour. This has been a great night. Thanks to both of you.
Well, America loves Bella. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for coming, Jay.
Bye.
Walter, don't you think that's a great idea? Maybe I run out to Williston next week. The weather's going to be beautiful. I'd love to get some of their input, now that we have decided to no longer be energy independent. We are now signing right back up with the Middle East and oil, and how it's literally, I had hope that with crude inching back up, because once it's above $50 a barrel, Williston and the Bakken can drill and make a profit. But I don't know. I'd love to see who's out there and say hi. Maybe I will end up out there. I don't know, but this has been a great show, and I don't know necessarily. Maybe that's the topic next week. I know we also had talking about the education and the systemic racism within the educational. It's still a work in process for next week.
Yeah, like I've said, the education topic is evergreen. It's always current, and there's plenty to say, so we can chat about that. Or if you want to make a road trip, we can definitely talk about energy. That's one of my favorite topics as well.
I'd love to do that. Well, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our advertisers. Walter, thanks again. We will be chatting on the other side. I'm going to make these last ads a little bit quicker. Basically, you want a nice horseback ride. We got nice weather coming up here in the metro, a safe and fun ride. Call Willie at Madline Horsemanship, 651-468-6050. Out in Stillwater, he's got beautiful quarter horses and very trustworthy. Call Kim Fox at Fox Nutrition and Diabetes Service, registered licensed dietitian nutritionist. Bottom line, she, conventional medicine provides medication as a band-aid approach to provide symptom relief to their patients. She designs so that you have a program that helps the body heal itself. Based in Andover, contact Kim at foxdiabetes.com to schedule your free 25-minute health makeover strategy session. I don't know why I'm stumbling over my words tonight. Maybe I'm just too excited tonight. You will, if you mention Bella D'Angelo, you will receive 25% off your first package of choice. And Strike Fitness in Rogers. Go to strike.fitness.com. Mention Bella. You'll get free hand wraps. It is a fun, fat-burning unique boxing fitness training center and yoga by Blisstopia in Blaine. Experienced teachers that have true passion for yoga and all the benefits it offers. And you can reach Yoga by Blisstopia online, Yoga by Blisstopia, Blisstopia. Mention myself, and you'll get a 15-minute free health assessment. And we got to wrap out. We got to say good night, God bless America, and ciao for now.